everyone, I'm Sam and welcome to the very first episode of the Shoogly Stitch podcast. I am a knitter, spinner, crocheter, and occasional sewist living in central Scotland with my partner and our dachshund Poppy. And it is because I live in Scotland that the name of this podcast came about. The word shoogly means like wobbly or shaky, and I've certainly had my share of shaky stitches, so I thought it was perfect for use in the title. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So as I said, I'm Sam. I've been living in Scotland for the last 5 years, and I've been knitting since I think I was about 10 or 11, so well over half my life at this point. And I've decided to start a knitting podcast because I want to get more involved in the knitting community. I've really enjoyed watching other people do podcasts and share what they're working on and get inspired that way. And I've had a knitting Instagram for a little while now, but I don't feel like it's actually quite the same connection as being able to like talk and explain what you're working on to someone. So I thought I'd give this a shot and see where it goes. I've got my notebook on my lap, so if I keep looking down, that is why, because I definitely need notes for this. So yeah, that's a little introduction to me. I think the format of this podcast is going to be largely like most other knitting podcasts that you see out there. I'll probably talk about finished objects, works in progress. I probably won't do much on acquisitions because I'm trying to reduce the size of my stash, which, while it isn't big, I would like it to be kind of used up before I start buying new things. And I'm also going to add in a bit on spinning because I am getting quite into spinning lately. And I think I'll also add in a section about mending. Since I have been knitting for so long, I've at this point got quite a few things that need to be mended, especially socks. So I'm thinking that if I put a section in the podcast for that, that might motivate me to actually get some of those mends finished. I'm also really big on making things that last and kind of sustainability, so mending is really important to me. So first off, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm wearing. So I'll put in a better picture of me wearing this jumper, but this is the Ravelston sweater by Isolde, who's a Scottish designer, and it is knit in Lammermuir wool Hilltop blend 4-ply. So here is the actual wool. And this is quite a rustic wool that I picked up from the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase, which was hosted by the Perth Festival of Yarn last year. Well, they host it every year, but I picked it up last year. They've actually changed their name now to the Scottish Yarn Festival. And it's just a lovely kind of sheepy, proper rustic woolly yarn. It's made from Shetland fleece from their own flock, and they're based like not that far from me, near kind of Edinburgh area. Blended with locally sourced Scotland worsted spun to create a soft, silky, and slightly neppy yarn with great stitch definition. And you can kind of see those neps in some of these bits on the jumper. Like you can kind of see the bobbly white bits. I haven't actually worn this jumper quite as much as I thought I would because it is a little bit rustic. So if I wear it for too long, like at the end of the day, my arms are getting a little bit scratchy, but I think I probably just need to push through and wear it more, and I'll just get used to it, or it'll soften up a bit. I might give it another wash actually, because it is, like, I'm really enjoying wearing it today and I'm remembering that I quite like it. One thing I really like about Isolde's patterns is that she does really, really good basics. So I have a few different sweaters in my wardrobe, but the ones I reach for again and again are those ones that are more like commercial patterns, the kind of neutrals or like cardigan that goes with everything. So this is a really good basic that just fits me like quite nicely. So next up I'll talk about my finished objects. And I've actually only got one because I am notoriously bad at actually finishing things and constantly just start new works in progress. I did do a few Christmas gifts and whatnot, but the most recent finished object I have that I can share today is this kind of vaguely tube looking thing, and this is the Inclinations Cowl by Andrea Mowry. So I'm actually going to put it on because otherwise it looks ridiculous. There you go, kind of see what it looks like there. I'll put another picture up just so you can see the whole thing because it actually is quite big. But yeah, this is the Inclinations Cowl. And it is in Spin Cycle, Dyed in the Wool, and the Uncommon Thread Posh Fingering. And it is a broken rib or broken fisherman's rib. I'll put the colorways and also the definite information about the stitch pattern down at the bottom, but you can see up close, see the texture and the color change, and this is a little bit blown out on camera, but if I back up it's like more accurate. So you're supposed to sew the seam all the way up in the back, so you basically just knit like, it's like a triangle with flat edges. What is that? A pentagon? Anyways, you knit this kind of, yeah, flat, and then you're supposed to sew up the back all the way. But I saw some people online say that like it then kind of, you have tons of fabric at your neck and like they want it to spread more out. So I decided not to sew it up all the way so that it could kind of like spread across my shoulders a little bit more and keep me a bit warmer. It turned out really well. It was really kind of addicting to knit because you just want to keep going and see how the colors are going to change because of that Spin Cycle yarn. I didn't buy the yarn specifically for this. I bought it for a different sweater, and then I didn't actually love the color that I got because Spin Cycle can be a bit like hit or miss if it actually looks like what the product photo looks like, because it is kind of that hand spun-esque style, so the skeins can look drastically different. So I ended up buying a different sweater quantity, or a different couple skeins to use in the sweater that I had intended it for, and then saved this for a little while and then found the perfect like contrast color with the Uncommon Thread Posh Fingering. So it's kind of this like slate gray blue. I really love it actually, and it's just so squishy, and fisherman's rib is like the most lovely texture and the most kind of fun thing to knit. So yeah, I'm really happy with the end result. And that is the only finished object that I have to share with you today. Moving on to works in progress. So I'm going to share the works in progress that I'm actively working on. This is not by any means all of the works in progress that I actually have, but it's all the ones that I'm working on right now. So first off, featuring a project bag that I made. Not to toot my own horn, but first off, I have a Musselburgh hat by, again, Isolde. And again, it's just a really, really good basic. So I'm sure most of you will have seen how the Musselburgh hat works. But it's basically, you knit a really long tube, and then, so you start at the top, increase, increase, increase till it's wide enough, and then you basically just knit a long tube of stockinette, and then at the end you decrease again, and then you stick it inside itself, like turn it the right side out. That sounds funny. So I'll kind of try and show you. It's like I'm nearly at the bit where I need to start decreasing at the end. So let me kind of sort that out. Yeah. I'll fold up the brim and put it on, see if this works. There you go. So you can see if I come in closer, like I folded up the brim, and then you can see where I started here, and then I just need to start decreasing. So it's a double layered hat, which is going to make it really nice and cozy, and basically means that the brim and around my ears is actually going to be like 4 layers. Oh no, my earring. Yeah. So super cute, can't wait to get it done. I actually do have another handmade hat that I wear a lot. It's another kind of gray neutral like this, but it has a little bit of mohair in it, and the mohair around my forehead drives me insane, and I'm like itching my forehead every time by the time I'm done. So that is why I wanted to make this other kind of neutral hat. And this is in Old Maiden Aunt Yarns, who's another Scottish dyer, and it's 100% superwash merino singles in the colorway Army and Navy. There we go. So that's Old Maiden Aunt Yarns in the colorway Army and Navy, and it's this really lovely kind of tonal gray. You can see how it works up. It's like a little bit stripy, but like not, it doesn't pool overly much. So I'm actually really happy with it so far. And it's really cozy. I'm like getting warm sitting in here already. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. So I actually should, like, it's nearly done. I think it's actually probably long enough. I probably should just start decreasing. For the longest time, this has been the thing I carry around, like that I knitted when I this has been the thing that I've been knitting when I wanted something to work on to keep my hands busy, because I'm incapable of sitting and not keeping my hands busy. But I like needed to pay attention, so I don't know, some, like phone calls with my parents maybe back home or just whatever. I didn't have to pay like any attention for so much of it because you're just knitting a tube of stockinette for a really long time. So I've always got some kind of project like that on the go. So that is my first work in progress, and I think actually having tried this on, I should probably just, yeah, decrease it. So that might be done by the next time I talk to you. The next project is with yarn that I got again at the Perth Festival of Yarn, and it's just a pair of self-striping vanilla socks. So again, like I said, I have a basic project on the needles at all times, and it's often socks. It's not like I'm knitting tons of hats, but you can never have too many hand knit socks in my opinion. So this is from the dyer All's Wool That Ends Wool. And you can see it's just a really nice kind of turquoise, purple, and gray. Yeah, I really like it. So yeah, there's not too much to say about this one. I like how it's working up. I do tend to knit my socks on size US 0 needles because I found that the fabric is a little bit sturdier. After having to mend a few socks already, I decided I'm tired of having to mend socks, and so anything I can do to make the fabric sturdier, I'm going to do. So that's a pretty recent switch. I think I've only made a couple pairs with the size 0, and it just makes the gauge that bit tighter. So yeah, these are really, really nice, working up really well. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep them for myself yet, or if I'm going to give them maybe to my grandma or my mom, two people who definitely appreciate my hand knit socks, definitely are knit worthy. So yeah, that's my second work in progress. The third thing is something I've actually posted about on my Instagram already, and it is a jumper. So this is the start of the Ferdagenser, or the Ferda sweater, and it's a pattern by Pickles Oslo. So it's a Norwegian designer. I'm not sure if it's one person or two. And I started this as kind of like a stash buster, so I'd ordered all of these yarns with the intention of using them for a different project. They didn't really work out in that project, and then I just had a bunch of single skeins of this Hilltop yarn, probably butchering the pronunciation. So the gray and the white are the Hilltop over fabric soldier. So yes, that is the gray, and then the white is a similar yarn in a neutral version, and the white is similar. The black is Jamieson and Smith Spindrift, if I'm remembering correctly, and again it was just a scrap from another project I'd had. And then the yellow is Tuku wool fingering. I really like the Tuku wool. I'd say out of all of them, the Tuku is probably like the least woolly. They're all properly woolly wools, if you know what I mean. Like, they're quite toothy, crisp feeling. But the Hilltop yarns definitely have more of a halo to them. So if I put it up close, you maybe can see, or maybe you can't. You can kind of see the fuzziness that's coming off of that gray Hilltop yarn. And the Tuku wool doesn't have quite, the Tuku wool and the Jamieson both don't have quite as much of a halo to them. So yeah, that is my next work in progress. I will say it's maybe not the best first pattern if it's for like your first color work. The chart is pretty easy repeat and it is just a raglan, but if you haven't knit a raglan sweater before and aren't really familiar with the construction, I would maybe recommend starting with something that is a little bit more detailed in the pattern. It's just kind of sparse, as a lot of maybe Norwegian designers or Scandinavian designers can be in their patterns. But I really like it so far, and I really like the combination of colors. And I like that I maybe wouldn't have chose these colors if I wasn't kind of constrained by working from stash, because that is my goal for this year. Not to completely use up my stash, but I'm trying to only buy yarn if I need to finish a project, or yeah, I'm trying to only buy yarn if I need to finish a project. There's not an or in there. So we'll see how it goes, because I don't think I have enough to finish this sweater, but I really like how it's going so far. Right, so next up I do have a little bit of crochet, and I'm not like a huge crocheter. I haven't ever crocheted any garments because I do prefer knit fabric for garments, but I think crochet is really good for things that require a bit more structure. Personally, I mean, I'm totally happy to see other people do, you know, crocheted garments and stuff, but I don't just love the feel of that for myself. Although I have considered a granny square cardigan before, but anyways, I digress. So what I'm crocheting right now is a basket, and this is another stash buster. I have a bunch of bulky yarn that I thought I was going to use for hats, but like I don't really like bulky hats, and I think it's kind of been hanging out my stash for a while. So anyways, I'm starting this basket, because who doesn't need more receptacles to hold their yarn and projects? So it's pretty simple. It's like you make a big circle at the bottom, and then you increase until it's as wide as you want your basket to be, and then you just start doing single crochet up the sides. And so I've got one stripe in there right now. I'll probably add a bit more. The pattern's actually written to like use up a bunch of your scrap yarn, so it's meant like to hold multiple strands together at once, and then you make this like really cool scrappy basket. So I still might do that because I do have kind of some miscellaneous scrap yarn from like projects that I just didn't use all of it, obviously. So I really like that idea, so that might be the next thing I work on. But I had like 4 or 5 balls of this, I think it's paint box acrylic, bulky weight, super bulky, super chunky, whatever you want to call it. And the designer on that one is Crochet in Color. And I'll link all of these below, obviously. So yeah, that is my one crochet project, and it's moving really fast. So if I actually just put in like an evening's worth of work, it'll probably be done. But I haven't done that. So hopefully by the next time we chat, it'll be done. So my next project is not a full-on project yet. It is just a swatch. And if I show you it, I wonder, maybe you can guess what it is. Swatch, focus. So it's just a swatch so far. But I am so happy with how it's turning out so far. So I've been seeing people start the Lento knit along. It's hosted by the Crochet and the Meaningful Stitch. So that's Rebecca and Amy from those 2 podcasts, and I think they're actually both Edinburgh podcasts as well. And I was watching The Woolly Worker, who's also someone based in Scotland who's just started podcasting, and she was talking about the Lento, and I was like, oh well, I don't have any mohair, or I'm not certain how I feel about mohair, let's put it that way, and I didn't really think I had anything in my stash for it, and I was like, man, why bother? And then I realized that I had 2 balls of this Issachar silk mohair in shade 100. So it's kind of a navy blue. It's really nice. I still haven't totally decided how I feel about mohair. I've made a striped like fingering weight and mohair sweater before and not worn it a ton, but I think it's mostly because I struggle with what to wear under it. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. So I'm gonna give it another chance, and it's a chance to get some yarn out of the stash again. So what I'm using is this. So this is Jamieson and Smith Shetland Heritage wool. So this is like a light fingering, light 4-ply, and I bought a cone of it for, again, a different project, because I think the quantity I needed, it was like, if I bought the amount of balls I needed, it was almost the same price as just buying a cone of yarn, which is obviously way more yarn. So I just bought the cone because why would you not do that? And now I have a ton of yarn left because they're like 500 gram cones. But it's a really nice kind of like neutral silvery color, silver gray. So it's a really good base, and the Lento calls for a fingering weight yarn and a mohair altogether. I can't remember specifically what yarns they suggest, but I very rarely use the yarns called for in a pattern. I usually just do whatever I feel like, or whatever I might have in my stash. So I'm using this and this, and that is what makes the blue stripe. However, the issue is I only have, what is it? This is, I think, so this is 212 meters of mohair. The whole pattern only calls for like 800 yards or 800 meters of yarn. So I have 400 meters of yarn. So I was like, well, I'll just make stripes. And with the other, the gray stripe, so the gray stripe will not have mohair on it. The gray stripe, I'm using the, again, just still the same base yarn. And then this is yarn, it's basically a lace weight, so it should work out the same as using the mohair with the fingering yarn. I went through a phase of getting jumpers from thrift shops, charity shops, and unraveling them for the yarn. This was in my broke student phase, so it works pretty well. The only issue being if you need like more yarn than was in that jumper, you may come across a problem. So pros and cons. The other con being that often the thickness, the weight of the yarn that you would find in a commercial jumper. So that's, let me get the end of it. The thickness of the yarn is like lace weight, and I know that's not gonna focus, but you kind of get the point. Like it's not a thick yarn. So you can hold it double and kind of approximate a fingering, or it's perfect for me needing to make up not having enough mohair. So I'm gonna make a striped Lento, and I think it's actually gonna turn out really well. I've already blocked this, and the fabric is just like kind of plump and lovely. I don't know, it's like, it turned out a lot better than I expected, so I'm really excited about it. I also have a few other leftover lace weight grays that I had made shawls for some family members. So I think I might use those up first. So this is like a cashmere lace weight. And then this is from, this is Meadow from the Fibre company. So it's really nice. This is silk, linen, and merino wool. So between those two and my charity shop jumper reclaimed yarn, that's the nice way to put it, reclaimed yarn. I mean, it's a really good way to get yarn if you are on a budget and looking for natural fibers. I won't go on too much of a tangent into that because we could be here all day, but yeah, you can get like a sweater's quantity of yarn for like maybe 5 pounds or whatever. There's plenty of videos out there on how to actually unravel a jumper, and it was only specific types of jumpers, so don't just start going and buying any old sweater, because you need to make sure that they're unravelable and that they haven't been cut and they've been knit in full panels. Anyways, I won't go too into detail about that because, as I say, we could be here all day. So that is my plans for the Lento, or for the Lento sweater. I can't remember the designer, but it was originally in the Lina magazine, so I'm sure you can find it and I'll stick it down below. What next? Okay, so my final work in progress is the Metamorphic sweater by Andrea Mowry again. And I am so excited about this. It's not in a very good like condition for me actually holding it up to show you, but I will stick another picture in because I tried it on before I started the sleeves, and now I'm working on the sleeves. But let me hold it up anyways. So this is inside, I mean, you knit it inside out. So this is inside out to like what it's gonna look like when I wear it, but I'll put it closer up as well. So the exciting thing about this is all in my own hand spun. So this is my first sweater project in my own hand spun yarn. Oh, twitchy dog. My first sweater project in my own hand spun yarn. So I spun this main color is from the fiber was from John Arbon Fibers, who also spin yarn, but they also produce fiber for hand spinners. And this is the Yarnadelic top, which is 100% Corriedale, and it's in the colorway Indigo Dust. So there you go. It's really like rich, kind of teal, kind of moody teal, and it's so squishy. Like, kind of intended to spin it thinner than it ended up spinning, but it's because I would spin it and I would think it was like the perfect thickness, the perfect weight, and like I do a ply back test and everything, and then it just seemed to plump up so much in the washing, and I don't know if that's just the nature of Corriedale. Like, I haven't properly done my research on all the breeds. It's kind of like on my to-do list is to do a breed study sometime in the future. So it's a little bit thicker than the pattern calls for, but it's working out fine. Like, it's still on gauge for how the pattern's written. And yeah, I'm like so happy with how it's turning out so far. The contrast color is this huge cake of yarn. Again, my hand spun. And this is, it's kind of blowing out a little bit, but it's like a teal with mixed darker teal and kind of like aqua, and there's like hits of hot pink in there. I'll put a picture of the actual skein up, and it's got some like white silky bits and darker teal silk bits. And that was from an art fat from Celie McWheely. She calls it a fat instead of a bat because it's like so big. I think it's 200 grams of fiber, so it's massive, but it made it perfect for this project. And I got that from the Perth Festival of Yarn as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. If I try and hold it up, it's like all wonky because I'm doing my sleeves 2 at a time, because I also knit my socks 2 at a time, because otherwise I just like will do one and then leave the other one forever, so it looks really weird when I hold it up. But yeah, I'm making really good progress on it. I spun the contrast color in, I think it was done in like November maybe. I finished it. I can't remember when the Festival of Yarn was. Sometime last fall. Oh no, okay. The Festival of Yarn was like right when the Queen died. So the Festival of Yarn was in September, and I think I must have finished this like October, November. And then the teal, the darker, like the main color from John Arbon, I got a gift card from my sister for Christmas. It came a little bit before Christmas. So I had the fiber like by the time I was off for winter for my Christmas break. So I spun that up really fast because I was so excited about the project. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how that's going so far. Because the main color did spin up a little bit thicker than I had intended, I'm not sure if I'll have quite enough, so they might be 3/4 length sleeves because I'm not sure I really want to buy more fiber. So it might be a little bit touch and go. I'll probably unravel my swatch as well, just to eke out every bit of that main color, but it'll be fine. It's fine. And now I've learned that Corriedale gets really plump when you wash it. So that is my last knitting work in progress. Next up, I'll touch just a little bit on my spinning works in progress. So I have an Ashford traditional spinning wheel, and I'll put in a picture, maybe some footage of me spinning, I don't know. That is from about 1970s, 1980s, very vintage, but the traditional really hasn't changed that much since it was originally created, and it's just a really good starter wheel, and I got it at a really good price from a family friend. So yeah, that's what I'm spinning on, and I've just got the one wheel. So I have 2 things that I've been working on So the first is a gift, and it's a Rambouillet. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that one correctly. Might need to see Google. But the Fibre is from Hilltop Cloud in Wales. So she's a really amazing dyer that makes this beautiful. I'll put in another picture because this is obviously all balled up, so you can't really see the full range of the colors. But it's really gorgeous hand-dyed fibre. And here is the first bobbin that I've spun. So this is going to be a 2-ply fractal. This is the first bobbin, and isn't it lovely? It's like these moody kind of, again, teals and purples, but there's kind of these like hits of yellow in it. You can kind of see it in the fibre as well. Like, look at that mustardy color that pops out. But then it's kind of majority kind of this greenish, definitely a green leaning teal, but it's got these purples. So I really love it so far. And Katie of Hilltop Cloud makes really gorgeous fibre. So that is my first project. And then the second is actually working on some wool that I've been processing myself, and we'll see what the results are like. I'm not convinced. When I went home this summer back to the States, so I'm from the Pacific Northwest, I picked up some alpaca fibre from like a friend of a friend. Never done anything with alpaca before. I've only worked with wool before, but I figured why not jump in both feet first and pick up some alpaca and try and process that. So I did that. I brought it back with me. No one questioned it. I don't know if they should have. It was in my suitcase, packed in vacuum bags, and I've still got a lot of it upstairs. But I started washing it, which has gone fine so far. And I decided to blend it with some wool, and I had kind of like a mishmash of colors laying around. So yeah, I've been blending it with wool to give it kind of more memory and elasticity, because alpaca is obviously known for like being really drapey, but it's not really springy. It kind of doesn't have the memory. And if I was gonna use it for a garment like a sweater, I would want it to have that memory so that, you know, it like stretches back. Whereas if I was using it for a shawl or something, that would be fine just to spin 100% alpaca. But I also thought that adding some wool would make it easier to spin. So this is my first bobbin of that blend, and it's looking a little bit more kind of reddish on camera. It's definitely more of a rich brown in real life. But to be fair, I did blend some kind of reddy fibers with it. So the alpaca fibre itself is this kind of like dark brown, deep brown color. And then I used, like I said, just a mix of fibers that I had on hand that kind of blended in well together. And I've been trying to learn long draw like technique for spinning. The other one I was spinning short forward, which is kind of my like default. But I figured I should try and branch out and expand my knowledge a little bit and learn a long draw. I don't know how well it's going. It seems to be going on the bobbin and not completely falling apart, so I guess we'll find out once I try and ply it if I've spun a good yarn or not. The other problem is that my Ashford traditional, because it is kind of like vintage, doesn't have, like, I don't have a flyer with multiple whirls on it. It just has one whirl, which means one ratio, which means it can be tricky to affect how quickly you spin. So that is definitely on the list of things to purchase imminently, so that I can kind of better control the ratio and how quickly I spin. So yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. It's really fuzzy, but I kind of feel like it's alpaca. It's maybe supposed to be that way, so I don't really have tons to compare to because I haven't spun too much alpaca, just like short forward. Although I did spin up some samples and I spun them up, like I did one short forward and one long draw from the fold, and they were quite similar. Like, it's not like the short forward was less fuzzy, so we'll see how it goes and I'll keep you updated. Should be an interesting experiment anyways. It's all learning, so that's fine. So that is all I have as far as spinning, and please let me know if I am glossing over any terms too quickly. I kind of forget at this point what people know and what people don't, and I don't want to assume, so obviously feel free to give me recommendations or ask any questions down below in the comments. The very last thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit of mending. So I have this pair of socks which are like disgustingly neon bright. Yep, like I said, They're just little shorty socks, really bright green, like chartreuse toes, heels, and cuffs, and this rainbowy kind of mane color. And this isn't really properly sock yarn. I think it's got alpaca and I can't even remember what the base is. Like, I had it for so long, it was like very deep stash. It was maybe even a gift. I'm not gonna wear anything this rainbow anywhere else besides my feet, let's be honest. I mean, it's just not gonna happen for me personally. So I kind of accepted, like, they won't be the sturdiest of socks, but at least I'll have used the yarn, whatever. And they are really cozy. But it does mean that they kind of develop holes quicker than like your more typical sock yarns. So let me show you. This doesn't have too many holes left to patch. I've patched some already, but let me show you like kind of the, like, they're not, this doesn't have full blown holes yet, but you can really see how it's getting thin. So let me try and show you that. So it gets thin kind of like on the ball of your foot and like on the heel. So can you see, like, right there? You can basically see my thumb through, and like the stitches. You can still see the stitches, they're still there, but like they need duplicate stitched over. So yeah, so like right there you can basically see there's a hole just waiting to happen if I wear it anymore, like on the carpet or anything. And I have already fixed, so these like rainbowy patches here, I've already duplicate stitched over these, and you can see right there as well, like where I haven't already duplicate stitched over, it's needing some more attention. So these have been repaired once, and I wore them and then they wore through a bit, so I'll repair them again and then they'll probably continue to wear. It's fine, like I knew what I was getting into when I made them. You can see this sock has already also been repaired, like it was starting to wear through at the toe as well. So I fixed that, fixed this, fixed down there at the heel. I'm not gonna do like a how-to. There's plenty of other people who've done that really well online, but I use this wooden egg thing. Some people use like a little darning mushroom. This is another option. And I just stick it in the sock, wherever I need to do the duplicate stitch, and it just provides like a firm surface to work on. So you can see there the holes, and then I'll just duplicate stitch over, and then that's great. I can wear it again for however long it takes to wear through again. It's definitely better for mending to catch your thin bits like before they properly develop holes. Otherwise then you have to kind of weave a patch and do the actual kind of woven mending. I'm not really describing that correctly, but hopefully you know what I mean. So yeah, that is like what's next on my plans as far as mending. It does take a little bit of time, but it is really satisfying when you see like how it turns out and that you've made it good as new and you can wear it again for another, it usually lasts me a good few months depending on how delicate the yarn is. My boyfriend has a pair of socks that I've probably mended 3 or 4 times at this point, which maybe says more about the yarn, and I might kind of shy away from using really delicate yarn for his socks again, but you know, lessons learned. Again, why I've gone for that narrower gauge or that smaller gauge on my socks now. So yeah, I think that is everything from me. I've really enjoyed talking about this. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening. Again, please let me know if you have any questions or comments or recommendations about how I can improve things. I'm always happy to learn, and definitely happy to like check out other people's podcasts as well. So if you have any recommendations of other people to watch, definitely let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye!